Does this mean Overwatch is back?
Overwatch 2 was an absolute disaster at launch. Blizzard made the incredibly unpopular decision to take Overwatch 1 offline when it launched Overwatch 2 as a free-to-play, worse version of Overwatch 1. I mean, the launch could have been worse.
I'll lead us in.
So, it survived long enough to try and course correct, and the team at Blizzard recently released a major update to mix things up with an all-new perk system in the hopes that it'll freshen things up and 10 players back. After pumping in a downright irresponsible amount of hours into Overwatch 2 in the past month or so, I'm ready to answer the questions. Is Overwatch 2 finally good now? Is it worth jumping into again or for the first time? And where does it stand versus what is now its biggest threat? There really is a lot to discuss, so I'm breaking out my notebook to run through the good, the bad, and yeah, some of the ugly of Overwatch 2 in 2025. Welcome to my notebook. Let's take a look.
The tree is down. Big hug for large threat.
So I'm going to break my notes up into a discussion about the different aspects of Overwatch 2. But before I do, I want to run through my general feelings about Overwatch 2 after playing it so much over the past 8 to 10 weeks. I'm referring to my notes and speaking casually. And I'll also be diving into some of those specific aspects that are worth calling out as good and bad.
Caught in my web.
So to kick off my feelings about Overwatch 2 so far, I must say that this game is really fun. It's in maybe the best shape it's been in since its existence. It's feeling as good as ever. Although it can also be terribly frustrating at times. The whole experience is leaving me both addicted and divided at the same time.
Each time when I come here, I am abused.
I mean, I was mostly done with Overwatch 2. I hadn't played it in quite a while. I'd been toying around with games like Marvel Rivals, and even there, I wasn't sure if I was going to get fully stuck into it or maybe look for something else. So I would dive into Overwatch 2 now and then with some friends who still played, and going in now, I was confused about some of the new characters. I didn't know how to play them, and I felt the same way about Marvel Rivals at this point too, because I also, while I knew a lot of who the characters were, I didn't know how to play them and what all their buttons were and things, so every time you jump in, it's a bit of a confusing mess. My friend told me about the new perk system that came to Overwatch 2 that I wasn't actually aware of. I was tempted to give it a try, and it landed up hooking me hard. And now I'm basically playing it almost as much as I can manage in between life and also the reviews that I'm busy playing, games that I'm playing for review for the channel. So I've played it a heck of a lot, and like I said, I'm pretty addicted right now. The honeymoon is a little over now though, so the main frustrations are really starting to stand out a lot, which means it's a perfect time to finally get around to making this video because I'm at that point where I've really gotten a feel for it. I've had the good, I've had the bad, and I've been wanting to do a video about this, and I'm also sort of wondering, this is the point where you start wondering, am I going to keep playing this? Is this good enough that I am totally keen on carrying this on and getting more stuck in, or should I rather, start easing off and maybe finding something else to do? Let's start with the good.
They have superior numbers. Can get them off the table.
I will give you shelter.
This game, as I mentioned, is feeling better than ever. The perks are really fun. I'll explain them in a moment, but they add a lot of variety and a lot of new dimensions to the game. So to give you a rough, quick idea of what the perks are, there is an Overwatch video that sort of explains how it works, but the very base, every character now basically has 3 levels: a starting level, a second level, and a third level. When you're at your starting level, your character basically plays the same as they always have, but what happens now is when you get to level 2, you hit up on the D-pad and or whatever it might be on PC, and you get to choose between 2 options. On console, it's left bumper and right bumper, and those 2 options essentially give you 2 different skills that you can use, or 2 perks that you can now add to your gameplay. So these perks generally boost existing abilities that you have, or they might also do something with your ultimates. Generally what happens is that your first set of perks are more about some basic abilities, and then your second perk normally has something to do with ultimates as an option as well. So, for example, I play with Anna, who's support character. She shoots people with healing darts or damage darts, depending. She throws a biotic grenade. And she also sleep darts people. So my first set of perks when I get to my level 2 allows me to either have my grenade follow on with a second grenade that bounces off, allowing it to be more effective. And then the other perk that I can choose from is when you sleep dart someone, they are slowed for 2 seconds when they get up. Now, this is really cool because you can already see that these change things quite a bit. So if I feel like I really need to deal with their tank a bit better by sleeping them and making sure that they're a bit slower when they get up, then I'll go with that option. But if I feel like I'm going to get better out of the biotic grenade, I'll go that way. Now, this can also combo a bit better with your second level of perks or your level 3. So with Anna, for example, when Anna gets to level 3, she can choose to either have her darts actually be able to do critical hit damage, so you can actually get headshots, which is really great because you can do a lot of damage. Again, if you feel like you need to do more damage, if you're in a game where you feel like your output just isn't good enough and the team needs some help, you can go and do that and get a few more headshots and kill people. And then at the same time, if you don't want to do that, the other option for her is that when she does her nano boost on someone, it boosts her as well. So it also depends on if you want to make the best out of your ultimate, things like that. So that's how it works, and that's just a rough idea. So across a lot of the characters, with the damage characters, it tends to sort of go in one or two ways. What I do like is with a lot of the support characters that I play, you can generally change something that will either help you maybe do more damage or do more healing. So you can sort of go that way. So I really like this because, again, this really changes things up. It's dynamic. It adds something fresh and new because every game you play, there's these combinations that could be coming out. And the more you get to know them, the better they are. Because you start realizing, oh, that Reaper's now got that ability that lets him shoot a long distance shot, or that Wrecking Ball, for example, has this thing where he can charge up extra in the air and slam down even harder. So now you got to be careful for that. So it's really cool, but it does give you a lot to think about because you need to start sort of wrapping your head around so many more things now with all these perks and so on. On that note then, there's a really solid character roster now and lots of maps, so there's a lot of content in the game. The characters are also great in Overwatch in that there's something for everyone. There's, if you want to play something that's more melee or more sniperish or more shooty or more whatever, mobile or static, there's something for everyone. But and on that note, actually, I'm enjoying the new characters quite a lot. When I got in, it was a bit alien. I had to learn them, and figure them out again as characters now that I landed up enjoying maybe the most. I'm playing them the most now. I play support a lot, like I said. So I'm playing Juno and I'm playing Lifeweaver or Wifeleaver as he's called. And and Ilari and stuff like that. These are all these new characters that I had to learn, but really fantastic additions to the game that I'm enjoying a lot. So there's all of that. Now, the problem is some characters still just suck, and some of them are even worse than they used to be. Sombra, for example, is a vampire of joy and adds nothing to the game. She just takes away from the game. I know I'm in the good section of this video, but I can't help but just want to rant every time I get to her. I wish they would just delete her from the game, because the way they've set her up right now with her abilities, she doesn't add, she just takes. She just makes things less fun. When there's a Sombra around, they're constantly around you, they're hacking people, they're taking things away, they're just ruining people's fun. I mean, I'm okay for having annoying characters that you can figure out and try to counter, but geez, like she's just the worst. I just really wish they got rid of her. On top of that, there's a few other characters I like more than others, but some are a bit annoying, and the vast majority of them are great. And the new ones that they've introduced are cool, and there's another one on the way that they had a temporary player for a few days sort of event recently. One thing I like as well, you can mute people as well as characters now. I don't know how recent that is, but I really like that, because if people are spamming their voice, lines and things like that, and it gets quite annoying. Some people seem to bind a button so that they can just spam their voice line all the time. So you can actually mute that as well now, which is really nice. The events as well are also still really fun. They take really big swings, like with the April Fool's event that was happening at the time that I'm recording this now. They've got googly eyes, which I think they've had before. They've got all these really funny alternate voice lines that they're using for all the ultimates. And it's actually kind of crazy how many new voice lines they recorded just for this. But some of them are absolutely hilarious.
Who's a good dragon? Who's a good dragon?
I'm actually going to be quite sad once they're gone. And on top of that, they added this new mode called Totally Normal Watch, I think it is, where they've sort of messed with everything, so it's kind of crazy. You go in and, for example, Mauga, who has 2 miniguns, if he points them down and fires, they work like a jetpack, so he can just like fly around. So it's just big, giant, flying like Samoan type dude in the air. So that's kind of cool. And all of this stuff together, it's finally feeling a bit more like a sequel now. It feels more like what this should have felt like when it first came out. I still feel like it needs a bit more though in terms of like maybe a visual overhaul or something to visibly make it look like a sequel. If you jump into Marvel Rivals right now, for example, it really does look like Overwatch, but there's an extra layer of detail and sort of shine on the graphics that just make you feel like this is one step more. And I think that they could use something like that, even if they use some more modern techniques, maybe start adding some, dynamic weather or global illumination or something like that. It would help. But look, the nice thing is it still makes it more accessible for, the thing can basically run on almost a calculator. But I mean, look, I've actually played it on the Switch. I've got it there as well. And it struggles a bit. It's 30 frames a second on a good day. But, at least it is still playable. But, still, I'd like to see something that they can do. I am playing it, however, I should point out, I'm playing it on the Xbox Series X, and I'm running in the 120 FPS performance mode, which is marvelous. I mean, I really like you can run it in a 3060 and 120 mode. So it's super smooth and it looks good enough. So yeah, but again, it would be nice just to see something different, even like a slight change in art style, something. Now we move over to the bad and the ugly, which I'm kind of lumping together. So other than the somber rant that you've heard me go on already, I'm going to just dig into some of the stuff that has really gotten on my nerves and the people around me that are playing. We enjoy the game a lot, but there's some days where you just think to yourself, okay, I don't know what I'm doing in this game anymore. And some feel more temporary than others, but anyway, let me get to it. There is a lot to learn if you return or you're a newcomer. There's, I mentioned it before, there's a ton of perks to learn now. There's a lot of characters you might not have played before that you need to learn. And that can be a bit rough to get into. So, I mean, even in the beginning, I was struggling again to remember how to play existing characters and then remembering how to play, or now figuring out how to play the new ones. And I mean, I used to play it quite a lot, but it's amazing how over some time you sort of get rusty. A big problem, though, is that since the recent update, I think it's like the April Fool's update, I think it's since then, there is just this problem with terribly imbalanced games. There is it's as if the matchmaking has gone mad, and I don't think it's an April Fool's prank, but something's wrong. Like, not long after I jumped into the game and I tried to play a few games by myself, and I went onto the WhatsApp group I have with some of my friends, and I said, geez, I just had the worst session of Overwatch now. We were just getting absolutely rolled by the teams against us. I mean, we're sitting with an entire team of our entire team has a grand total of 4 kills, and the opponent's team are in the 18, 20 something range. For the majority of them, they just destroyed us. And I was surprised to see that the replies I got from some other people that I play with was that just happened. That happened to me too. It's not just me. So I was quite surprised. And then it happened more and more and more. So there's been something screwy for the last week or so at the time of recording. And I don't know if it's a bug or something, but you get into games where some players feel like they're on PC and they're warming up for competitive mode. These guys are moving, in a way that you don't move unless you've absolutely mastered this game. But in the same game, you've got people running around who look like they're genuinely trying the game out for the first time. They don't even know how it works. You've got people who are playing healers who aren't healing. They're confused about where to go. It's okay to be a newcomer and it's okay to be a hardcore player, but you really shouldn't put those people in the same game, especially if it's in quick play and stuff like that. So something's weird there, and I hope that comes right, because that has really been one of the major annoyances lately. When you're in those games, it can become infuriating. You just end up feeling helpless and so discouraged, because you can have 4 games in a row where you almost don't even get out of spawn. So that's just so incredibly uncool. I can't tell you. And if they're not careful, that's enough for it to make a whole bunch of players say, look, I'm out. I'm not gonna keep playing this. Also, one last note on that is that if it happens to you and your team is the good one and you completely roll the other team, it's a hollow victory. It doesn't feel good. You want to have good, nice fights, and that's not what's happening. So I really hope they sort this out. So another major problem worth discussing is the problem with sort of teammates, but in ways that you might not expect. The one is in a way you'd expect, and that there is still a big problem with people leaving early all the time. I've had so many games, especially with what I just mentioned before about, these sort of matchmaking issues, but you'll get into a game, you'll have one proper engagement with the other team, they'll blast half of us away in one go, and then you'll immediately have 1 or 2 people on your team leave. and then you're out of, you don't have a tank or a healer for just a little bit of time, and you're in big trouble, because at that point the momentum picks up and you mostly get trashed. At the same time, sometimes these cowards who leave early make a space and then someone else joins, and then from that point onwards we do better. So, thanks for letting us know who the problem was in the team. The other problem is something that is very strange that we've been keeping our eye on, and that is that there seems to be some strange bots trying to fly under the radar in Overwatch 2 right now. And we don't know, we can't figure out if they're from Overwatch themselves or if they're people who have managed to somehow get these bots to play in games. Maybe there's a theory that maybe they are people who are trying to create dodgy accounts, or they're trying to get a certain amount of time behind these accounts or these players so that they can maybe sell these accounts straight to people who want to jump back in or go into competitive or something like that. But you will play these games where you start to realize, you just have to pay attention now and then, there will be players on your team and you'll realize they're pretending to be active, but they're not. You'll watch them and, you'll see a soldier and he'll just sort of run into the corner of the map and shoot the sky a bit, and he'll maybe like use an ability out of nowhere, but you realize they're not actually taking part in the game.
Hunting them down!
Can't have it getting worse.
And we also noticed like they won't use their ultimates, for example. Like, we can't figure out why this is happening. We can't figure out if this is Blizzard trying to fill the game, because these bots don't really behave like the bots that you'll maybe play with in some of the custom modes. But yeah, it's sort of dodgy as hell, but it really sucks because it also just completely ruins the game, because you're basically a person down, and there's no way. It's something that they need terribly badly, because another problem on top of that, not with players leaving and bots, but also people who just throw the game. You just sometimes get into a game where people are being douchebags, they're playing their voice lines, they're busy griefing you or pushing you over things or putting walls up in front of you with May, and the game really needs a way for the rest of the team to like vote on a profile or something and say, please vote to kick. Because these bots are just taking up a spot and they're not actually helping, and someone could rather be playing with you and helping out. So whatever the hell these things are, I would love to know. If you know what they are, or if you've read about something like this on Reddit or something, please do enlighten me, because I'd love to know what the hell is going on. It kind of actually makes me sad, because a lot of the problems with the game comes down just to people and the way people behave, and the fact that so many companies and developers basically need to be like caretakers. They need to be nannies for a whole bunch of children who just can't, be normal human beings. And on that note, I also turned off my text chats and things like that, because I really don't need to see what people are saying, because they normally pipe up just to, be annoying or say stupid things or whatever. So, no thank you. I don't need that in my life, and I'd highly recommend you just turn that off as well. Ignorance is bliss in that department. Something that's very weird that happened is that in my region, so I'm in South Africa, so I'm in a bit of a weird spot because we're not close to any of the sort of major, the major population areas for gaming. So we've usually in the past had to connect over to Europe or something like that. So we're pretty used to pings of like 180 to 200 our whole lives. And it's still very playable, especially with modern netcode and stuff like that. But recently we got rerouted to Middle East servers. And what's really frustrating is that Overwatch doesn't let you choose which servers you want to play on. And that's a pain in the ass. So what happened is we found, and we play on Middle East servers, it's just a horrible experience. The players are bad. We get more people leaving. We get a lot of people doing things like throwing games or teabagging when they kill you and stuff. It was really quite jarring just to see how different it was. And what we ultimately tried was we found out online how to block those Middle East servers on our routers. We did that, and now we're getting games in Europe instead, and the quality of game and player is just immediately shot up again. So I don't know if it's also because the Middle East maybe has a smaller pool of players, or maybe it's an age thing, or I don't know what it is, but geez, it's not great. So I mean, look, this is very much a problem that is only in my region. So if you're watching this from the US or from Europe or Australia or anywhere else in the world, you're probably not going to have this issue. But I just thought it was worth noting because it was weird, and thank goodness we could get around it and find a way. But please, for Pete's sakes, Overwatch, everyone else does this. Please put in a server selector. It would really help for a lot of people. So the other aspect of this is still that it's a free-to-play game. Now, I'm pretty immune to stuff like this, but it's still crazy to see they've got, battle passes in the store and things like that, and it's just shocking to go into the store and see these crazy expensive items there in the store. Like, there's like this mythic weapon skin bundle thing for Widow right now that is $40. $40 for a skin sort of bundle thing or whatever. Like that, I just recently reviewed South of Midnight. That whole game is $40. That's like a 12-hour game with like a story and gameplay and all those things for $40. And they're charging this for some skins or some weapon skins or something. I don't know, but that stuff is crazy to me. And I know that it's going to still appeal to a whole bunch of people. And there's a lot of other games that do that. But to me, that stuff is just still wild. Okay, so let's also just have a quick discussion about Marvel Rivals and where Overwatch 2 sits against Marvel Rivals. I mean, the fact that it's called Rivals is kind of funny because this is definitely Overwatch 2's biggest rival. It's currently all the rage and a lot of people are playing it, and I know a lot of people who left Overwatch 2 who are saying they're not interested in coming back to Overwatch 2 because they have Marvel Rivals. Now, one of the big advantages of Rivals over Overwatch is the character knowledge. You know these characters now from the comics, from the movies, from the cartoons, and even some games, so you know what to expect. Now, you're not going to know exactly what each character does, but you know that if you're going to be playing, for example, Thor, you're immediately going to have an expectation in your head of what kind of character this is. Like, oh, it's probably like a tank character. He's probably going to use his hammer, you know, that sort of stuff. And if you're playing Spider-Man, you can think, you know, I'm going to be zipping around and doing all these sorts of things and doing combat. So that really, really works in Rivals' favor. Whereas if you come into Overwatch fresh, you don't know who the hell all these people are. Now, I've been there since the beginning, but I've jumped into some other games like this before that I don't know, and you don't care about these people. They're all just weird. They seem like they don't appeal to you. It takes a bit of time to build up sort of an affinity for these characters. But in Marvel, not a problem. And what Marvel also has, which I really like, is that, yeah, its graphics, I did mention this earlier, its graphics are a little bit better than Overwatch 2. It looks very similar to Overwatch 2. It's a similar art style even, but there's just a bit more detail and a little bit more pizzazz, you know, going on there that makes you think, ooh, this is something newer. And Overwatch 2 is missing that. It also has combo moves, which are really cool and going for it. And that's something that also Overwatch 2 promised when it first came out. The trailers were showing, you know, Brigitte and Reinhardt, you know, connecting their shields together or combining ultimates. Now, there are these things with Marvel where you can do stuff like that, or you have characters that work together with each other. And that's really cool. So, you know, Overwatch still could be doing more. You know, you realize in many ways Rivals kind of feels like what you wanted from an Overwatch sequel. It's like, oh, look at all these new ways to approach things like the perks. But, you know, Overwatch 2 really should have had more going for it that it didn't. But, you know, but at least it's in a good place now. Third person mode I also think is a bit more accessible, and of course when it comes to things like cosmetics and skins and all that, you know, it shows off the characters more, so people are going to like that more. I don't care too much, again, for that kind of stuff, but it is cool. Like, if you buy a skin, you'd want to see it a bit more, you know, like in Fortnite. So that was somewhere where Overwatch really kind of shot itself in the foot, but at least it has a few places that shows them off. But that basically puts you into a situation now where you've got, you know, if you've got the choice to play with Marvel Rivals, you know, to play Marvel Rivals or Overwatch 2, you know, first of all, it depends on where you've come from. Have you played Overwatch 2 before? You know, both are now free to play games. Both are hero shooters or hero, you know, team-based sort of objective-based games. So they're quite similar, and I you know, as much as I'm really enjoying Overwatch 2 right now, I got to be honest and say it's tough for me to not just recommend Marvel Rivals to people instead, because it's just more, you know, familiar to them, and it's just maybe that little bit more accessible, and at the moment isn't sitting with the same kind of problems that Overwatch 2 is sitting with. That said, if you're playing Overwatch 2, if you've played Overwatch 2 before and you wanted to come back to it, but you were disappointed with where it was, you know, you can more safely look at coming back. Now, that brings me to my final thoughts on Overwatch 2.
Collect the little balls to win the prize.
So for my final thoughts, I'll say this. Overwatch 2 does feel good again. It feels like it felt when I was really enjoying it. So I do like it that way. It's fun to play, the perks are fresh, and it adds variety. It still has some big problems though, and some of them are enough to cause some pretty major frustrations at times. Some are hopefully more temporary than others. And I am still a little bit divided on where to go from here. Like, do I keep playing this? Is it just, you know, do I go more heavily into this, start playing comp again and stuff? Or do I, you know, decide to back away? Really, they just need to sort out some of the problems they have. So, you know, I'm hoping that they get the little things right because I really like what this is. And can I just add for a moment, this is sort of off topic in a way, but the world of Overwatch still blows me away. The characters, the environments, every time you start a new game and you look out the windows over these sort of utopian sci-fi, cyberpunky, it's like this mixture of like a modern future tech and this world that's so fascinating. For Pete's sake, Blizzard, Xbox, whoever, make us some stuff in this world. Make a TV show, make something, make an animated movie. It looks like an incredible world, and I'm sad that we're not exploring it more. I'd even love them to do some spin-off games, standalone games where you play as some of these characters. Do like a ninja game with Genji, or do something like that. Like, just there's something there, man. Go let us have more of this world. It's really cool. That is where it is. So is Overwatch dead? It isn't. It is still going. It is actually in a pretty good place. I'm glad that they've done this. I hope that they can do something to re-energize it. I have a few ideas, but maybe I'll do that for another video. Some really cool stuff I think they could do, especially with who owns Blizzard and everything now. But yeah, as it stands, Overwatch 2 is worth checking out. But, again, it might have some issues, but I'm going to keep playing it. I'm enjoying it. Truth be told, I had trouble making this video because halfway through when I was reviewing all of the footage I had taken, it made me so itchy to go and play again. I actually took a break and went to go play a few rounds. So, there's that. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button to let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and also check out the channel for some other videos. We do reviews, I do notebooks like this, and some other fun stuff. So once again, thank you so much for watching. I'm Nick from What's Good. I'll see you soon.